You're watching Business Access TV.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
Business Access.
You are watching Business Access TV.
Business Access TV.
Serious about business.
Serious about business.
The Development Bank of Jamaica is hosting a one-day summit geared to small and medium-sized enterprises under the theme Empowering for Success. Talk, connect, grow. And Business Access TV is here to bring you all the highlights. I'm Shelley Hill. Stay with us for more. Tell us a little bit about the overall function of the Development Bank of Jamaica.
Well, as it relates to this summit, it's really a focus on our intervention in the MSME sector, the micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, where we are looking to ensure that at every stage of the business cycle, we intervene. So it is to provide financing. We have solutions there for the MSME sector. Importantly, capacity development, where we provide grants for training for businesses to get themselves registered, to get their accounts, and also venture capital, which is equity that a lot of small and medium-sized businesses need in addition to the financing that they would require. So this really is a way of us reaching out to the MSME sector to for them to be aware of our products, and also for them to learn from those who have been very successful, from those who have done it, any tips that they may be able to get in order to make their businesses successful.
How important would you say are MSMEs in the development of the economy?
It goes without saying that the MSMEs are the backbone of our economy. They are, and we say this all the time, the engine of growth for this economy, both in terms of the jobs that they create and also the economic activity that they generate. So they are fund. I mean, if we are hoping to achieve the economic growth that we want, the 5 and 4, the MSMEs are absolutely critical to us achieving that. And that's one of the reasons why we have a singular focus on their development, their sustainability, and indeed their profitability and success.
We're joined by Mrs. Audrey Richards of the Jamaica Venture Capital Program. It's great to be with you. Tell us your overall views of this summit here today.
Well, the summit, I think, so far has been an absolute success. We've had some really amazing panelists with basically all of the successful business people who have been sharing a lot of how they have actually achieved their success and the route that they took. And I think it's amazing because it gives everybody else an opportunity to understand just what it is that they can do. That it was just not an overnight success, and the kind of tools that you have to employ to really make it work. So I think that, for us, was one of the main drivers behind having these presenters. And I think the message has really been communicated, and I really think it has been amazing so far.
Tell us a little more about the Jamaica Venture Capital Program.
Okay, that's a program that was started by the Development Bank, and basically what we're looking to do is to develop the ecosystem for venture capital and private equity in Jamaica. As you know, access to finance has been a major issue for many of our entrepreneurs. So having an industry that creates an opportunity for them to access the non-traditional funding, whether through private credit funds or private equity funds, having an equity investor in your business would be a game changer for many of our entrepreneurs. So it doesn't happen by providing capital. It's a whole environment that has to be developed. And that is what the Venture Capital Program is about, developing the environment. So we've had to do a lot of training for our investor community to understand how to evaluate and invest in these businesses. We've done a lot of entrepreneurial training for our entrepreneurs to really understand how it is that you need to be able to pitch to an investor. So as an entrepreneur, you have a business, you have a good idea, but you need to understand how to pitch it. And this is what part of the development program that we undertake is all about.
So what impact do you think that the DBJ Summit will have on SMEs?
I think what will happen is that it's helping them to think out of the box. We're talking with 21st century SMEs. We're in a technology age. We can't use the same formulae that we used in the 20th century. We now have to move into the 21st century. Some of the panels that we have for the entrepreneurs the SMEs to really get into later on in the day include those that are looking at productivity tools. Everybody's going, you're basically, a lot of the stuff you're doing, you don't have to employ, a huge workforce to do it. You can outsource. And it's not that you're not creating jobs, because outsourcers are creating jobs. It's just that they make you more efficient, so you can continue to invest more and do more, and more of your time is spent on the business and working, on your business as opposed to working in your business. And that's the trap I think a lot of entrepreneurs get into. They're so busy working in the business, they can't step out to work on the business. So those are some of the things that we want to be able to convey to our 21st century entrepreneurs here today.
Thank you so much for speaking with us, Mrs. Richards.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so when we started Ingenuity, the first thing that we decided to do is that we decided that we needed to have a vision. So with any business, you need to have a why, and that why need to transcend money. So our why was to make the Caribbean creators of technologies, as against just being consumers of technology. Once we created that vision, the next thing that we realized that we needed to do is that we needed to have core values. Like, what are the core values that we as a company, is going to operate by? So we have our vision, we have our core values. The next thing that we decided that we're going to do is that we're going to start attracting or looking for persons who share our vision and share our core values. So that's the second step. The third thing that we decided that we were going to do is that we're actually going to put systems and processes in place to actually ensure that at different times throughout the business life cycle that we're actually living by that vision and those core values. So once we have done that, we decided that, all right, the first problem that we saw was the problem, within Jamaica and within the Caribbean of, there are long lines at the bank. So there are long lines at the bank. You go to the bank, there are long lines. And we realized that there are long lines at the bank and then everybody has a cell phone. Jamaica, for example, has a tele-density of 110%. And all that means is that everybody essentially has a cell phone, right? So there are long lines at the bank and everybody has a cell phone. So we said, all right, well, can persons actually do their banking from their cell phone? So we looked at the case, we studied it, and we decided that we're going to build a mobile banking solution. So we built a mobile banking solution from scratch. And after building that solution from scratch, you could actually conduct all your financial transactions from your cell phone. Now, the next stage for us was, how were we going to get this into a bank, right? We started pitching a few banks throughout Jamaica. We weren't really getting, positive responses, because you can imagine, we have built a solution from scratch and we're going to connect into a banking system that has people's money, right? That's just very risky. One day I was going about my business in New Kingston and I saw a CEO of a bank and I said, hey man, we have this solution that we think can actually transform your bank. And he was like, what's the solution? So I told him about the solution and told him how the solution could actually help him within his business. And what I did was, he said, well, Melarka, I want you to send me an email. And that was a Friday. And I said, all right, well, I'm going to send you an email. So I spent the entire Saturday writing that email. And the email was just a paragraph. Because it's like I wanted that email to be so perfect. I think that's the most perfect email I've ever written in my entire life, you know? So I sent that email over to him, and I was just very impressed by the fact that he responded back, I think, between Saturday and Sunday. Hey, I'm going to connect you with the person that's in charge of marketing at the bank. So he connected us with the person that's in charge of marketing at the bank, the VP of marketing at the bank, and then we got to meet the VP of IT. And you know, the long and short of it is that we got the solution implemented at the bank, and as a proof of concept, and they were actually able to conduct their financial transactions. Now, you know, throughout that journey, that was a major achievement for us, because at that time, that was the only bank that we could actually get into. But then we started realizing that at that point, the bank priorities actually started changing. So, you know, we spent all this time building this solution. I mean, all this time building this solution, and the bank priorities started changing. So, I mean, our product essentially got shelved because they had higher priority solution to work on. So, you know, I started looking around and I realized that the competence that we actually possess to build this solution, to build a mobile banking solution, we could actually use those core competencies to solve the other problems that the bank was having. So it was very important for us to pivot. Now, I think that's just the important thing in business. I mean, you're either going to live or die by what you believe in, or you're going to realize that the customer needs aren't your needs, and you actually need to change those needs within the business. So we actually changed, and then, so we had the SaaS-based side of the business, which is a mobile banking, and then we had the core software engineering and quality assurance and testing side of the business. Once we got that, once we decided that we were going to pivot on that, the next thing that we saw is that we actually needed to get somebody to trust us to work on a project. Now, so I mean, I work out at the gym, right? And I met an advisor. So when we were building our mobile banking solution, we have a very important advisor. His name is Ernest, and he was just helping us and guiding us along the process. And at that time, he was the VP of IT at a major bank, and we said to him, I said to him, you know, this mobile banking thing isn't working out. You know, do we have any project that you need help with? And he was like, wow, it's like, is God send you, right? So I said, yeah. I said, all right, yes. We took that project, and we used that project for a proof of concept. So we didn't really care about money. I mean, I was just honored, or we were just honored that actually somebody would actually give us a chance with something. So we didn't really care about money. I was so excited about that first project that the last 10% that they had to pay us, we didn't even ask for it. I mean, Ernest was the one who came back to us and said, you don't want your next 10%? I'm like, no, I want the next project, right?
We take a break, but don't go too far because we have much more after this. Welcome back to Business Access TV's coverage of the Development Bank of Jamaica's SME Summit. We now rejoin our presenters on stage.
We recognize that there was a need to hold on to the past while investing in the future. And the future is online. So we have developed an IYD, an Internet Yellow Directory, where you can be much more relevant and much more current, and you can put a lot more information. There was a time when all you needed to know was the number and the address. Now, you know, if you're looking for a restaurant, you need to know when it's open, do you have parking, do you have Wi-Fi, what's your menu like, and that can be updated. That can be updated all the time. So we're in the business of creating economic activity by introducing the purveyors of goods and services to consumers. And that's the more informed a consumer is in their decision-making process, in their buying process, the better off we are. So we have developed several different media to reach the public, and we work with the businesses to develop your content, choose the right medium for reaching to your audience. We're in website developments now. We do about 1,200 per year, so you can get a template or a custom built or even an e-commerce website. Very important, we help you to manage your website, to make it attractive, to make it appealing, to make it come up in the first page when you're doing a search. Then we went and developed a relationship with Google. It's a good relationship because Google knows how you search. They know everything about you and what you do on the internet. And they know how you browse as well. So armed with that information, we can come to you as a business and say to you, you know what? These are the words people are using when they are searching. And therefore, we design your ads with those words in there. So when there's a search, you come up on the top or you pay for it. So there are now new channels of reaching your audience in a very effective way, and you only pay per click, so you don't pay unless they come through. You have several ways of doing that. We know how people browse. We know what their patterns are, so we can place your ad in the right place. Have you ever gone to search? You're going on a holiday and you search for a hotel, and then you finish searching for the hotel, but you didn't book, and you go to another site, and then a hotel ad comes up. It's following you around because what Google did, it place a cookie on your profile, and so now wherever you go, they realize that you are still an interested party. So they hit you at the right moment they hit the right person at the right moment because they know what you're looking for, and it's a much more effective way. YouTube is the second largest search engine. It's most valuable online asset. Why? Because video, if content is king, video is king of content.
Island Grill started off trying to look as international as possible. We started off as Chicken Supreme. My son designed the logo, and it was at a time when all the big QSRs were doing extremely well in Jamaica. We know some of them are the top achievers right here in Jamaica, like in the top 10. So we wanted to look as foreign as possible because Jamaicans have a bias for everything that's foreign. So we knew what we were competing against, and we did okay. But it was when we changed our strategy, when we said, what's wrong with being Jamaican? We want to look Jamaican, and that's why I'm surprised that your son didn't know we're Jamaican. Everything about us is Jamaican, right? I'm Jamaican, but our product line, everything on our menu is Jamaican, except for the French fries that we import. We've even gone so far as to incorporate Jamaican food on the menu. And I will tell you that when we changed from Chicken Supreme to Island Grill, that's when we really saw success. That's when our sales doubled. When we put the fish with a head on, which, foreigners, you would think that foreigners wouldn't like to see the eyes looking up at them, but it's what they want to see in Jamaica. And it's what we Jamaicans relate to. So all of those things, the festival, we manufacture, we use our own formula, which the Jamaica Flour Mills manufactures for us, because we used to do it all, sit there with the scales and weigh it out. The volumes got so big that we had to resort to help. So things like that we had to incorporate as we went along, right, to just make the brand more successful. If you notice our juices, I think my son, my son and daughter-in-law, when they started to get more involved in the business, and they said to me, you have to take out all of that carbonated sweet soda. It's bad for you. And we're seen as a healthy alternative out there. So it took me a little while to be convinced, right, to take out free refills. And we did have a lot of pushback, but now our juices, we have a refresher that is a fruit-based juice. We have the Veggie Booster, we have the Roots Rocker. We use all Jamaican type names. And the beverages are just big sellers for us because we reflect the roots of Jamaica.
It is well known that economies grow when small businesses grow, and small businesses need a lot more resources than a medium or a large business because they don't have the capital or the human resources sometimes to really take them to the next level. So the more that we can invest in them is the more we'll see employment, and is the more we will see our economy grow, and we'll have the innovation that will help to make us a prosperous society.
Certainly. And how important do you think a summit of this nature is, especially as we look toward 2018? And you can relate that to your company as well.
I think it's very important because what it has done is brought in service providers like the Yellow Media Group, and we are innovators of information to provide to businesses. In what we do, we bring businesses together. We bring consumers together with the providers of value, and we create the environment for growth. So I think it's very important.
Any outlook for 2018?
Outlook is great. We have all the conditions now. We have all the vital ingredients for growth in our economy, and I think the focus now is how do we build sustainable growth through innovation and through investments.
The thing that I probably pride myself the most in being able to do the things that I do and start entrepreneurial ventures and so on is that I speak different languages. I'm multilingual. Not in the way that most people would think of multilingual. I'm talking socially multilingual, culturally multilingual, financially multilingual. Because you can't use the same language that you use on the street to win a customer, or to get money from a bank for your business. So I feel like I can talk different languages. I can go into a bank and make a presentation to a bank to raise funds. I can go into an environment with business people, talk sports. I can talk football. I can talk cricket. There's so many things that I can talk that helps to bridge communication gaps, helps to build relationships. So that's a very important thing. You have to think of yourself, and you have to become multilingual in terms of your approach to business. So that when I do talk to a development bank of Jamaica, I can articulate some of the things that I think DBJ would be interested in, development type things, national objectives, and so on. When I'm talking to an investor who I just want to invest into my business, I'm going to speak a different language. I'm going to talk about return on their investment and safety of their investment and so on. And when I speak obviously to a customer, it is going to be, again, a totally different aspect. I'm selling my product. I want to turn that product into something that's useful for that person. When it comes to things like going up against the big boys, I think my sporting background definitely helped me. You learn to compete from a very early age against teams that are bigger and better than you. Somehow you lost some, but you knew you won a few. And you try and think about the lessons you learn from winning a few of those battles on the field. I also learned that losing didn't really kill me. You lose a match and you're depressed that night, but the next day you look forward to the next match. That was a great lesson that I learned in life from sports. So I've never been intimidated about going up against the big boys. Now, I can tell you that the creativeness or the innovation or the tactics and strategies that you use, say at DB&G, and you wouldn't, it's not going to work. No. When DBG started, I was a kid, and nobody took me seriously. So they sort of turned a blind eye. The big boys turned a blind eye until it was too late. Somebody asked me now to start a bank. I'd never start a bank because people might take me seriously. He's really going to do it, and so on. And so that wouldn't work, for instance, in starting a telco, which I have. Ready TV is really part of a telecommunications group, and you're going to get up against, 2 billionaires in the first place. John Malone probably worth 7 or 8 billion, and Dennis O'Brien 5 or 6 billion. Yeah, there's no way I'm going to compete against them with my little savings. So you have to find some other way to compete. And those of you who've heard of Sun Tzu, The Art of War, it's recommended reading. And I know it sounds so philosophical and far-fetched, but so on. But business is about war. And there's very basic things that Sun Tzu documented back in 400 BC or 480 BC or something like that about war that still holds true. And one of the things he said was, you never fight directly, I'm paraphrasing, somebody more powerful than you, an enemy more powerful than you. If you never engage them, they're more powerful than you. If you have 1 tank and they have 50 tanks, you're really going to take them head on? No. You have to find some way, if you're going to have to engage them on your terms, your strengths.
So, I mean, I don't know if it's going to work, but when I looked at a Digicel and a Flow and the size of those companies, I said, okay, these guys are elephants. So who can I be? Which personality can I take on? Well, I have to be the mosquito. I have to be that pesky little creature that's hard to get rid of, very nimble, and as much as you spray, then somehow them always seem to come back. And every once in a while, they drop a zig deep on you. So we created that philosophy, and if you ask any member of Ready TV, what are you? They'll tell you we're the mosquito. And you're trying to then create that culture in your organization that can compete on your terms, fast, nimble, small. But I also took lessons from what these guys have done. So when Digicel came here, they painted the town red. And so the second you see red, who do you think of? You know, if you thought about it, 25 years ago, if I showed you color red, you'd think of who? Scotia or Red Stripe. 9 out of 10 people will identify Digicel with red without them having to even slap a brand on that door. You'll think of red. But then I don't have the billions of a Dennis O'Brien to paint the town red. And I said, you know what? A lot of people seem to love to take pictures of me and put it in the newspaper. So for about 2.5 years, I wore nothing but purple. And I wore purple every event, and people couldn't understand. But Chris, I thought you went to Campion, not KC, kind of thing. I said, yes, I went to Campion, and so on. And I wouldn't tell them what is coming. But when Ready TV was revealed and it was purple, purple had become associated with me in my small way. And so I got all this free publicity for color that I'm trying to own a piece of. And it makes it so much, in my mind, I think it makes it so much easier if you become associated with, your brand becomes associated with a color, your color becomes associated with a culture, and your culture becomes associated with your product. And that's my tactic. Which brings me to, I guess, another life lesson, that you can't be afraid to throw yourself into your business. You have to commit. You can't be embarrassed about it and worry that it's going to fail, so you're going to be embarrassed if it fails, if you step out on that limb. As I said, I've learned that you can win and lose, and every time Audrey was listed off all the wins that I list on my bio, I can tell you in between there are tons of failures that nobody remembers. Nobody remembers. I remember because I learned the lessons. It's an incredible university I've been through called business. You remember Zupa Dupa and Nutty Body and those products? I used to have the entire distribution of that in Jamaica. All the refrigerated trucks and so on. But of course, like clockwork, every weekend there's a robbery. And the cash disappears. And the truck member just take turns, so they're sharing it up. The robberies, and a nice police report would come to me. So what you're gonna do? It's all, in all intents and purposes, it's a legitimate robbery. Robberies tend to take place around August, back to school, Christmas, Easter, around holiday time, and so on. But it was incredible lessons.
We're now joined by Mr. Chris Daring, CEO of Ready TV, and we certainly enjoyed your presentation here at the summit. How important would you say a summit of this nature is to the furthering of the development of the Jamaican economy?
Well, of course, if you can impart some of your own knowledge, get feedback from other people's learnings, or from other people's experiences, then that exchange of ideas will always help to grow an economy, because, nobody invents an idea from scratch. There are very few people that do that. Ideas and creativity and innovation really are variations of a theme. And so the more themes and the more ideas that you can have as a data bank, you can then have more ideas for your own business. So it's very important.
Welcome back. And if you're just joining us, we're here at the Development Bank of Jamaica's SME Summit. We're now joined by Lisa Suarez-Lewis, CEO and founder of Great People Solutions. Your presentation was well received. Share with us some of the main points that you shared with the audience here today.
Right. So we had about 5 or 7 minutes to present, and they asked me to talk about innovation and technology. And first of all, because I'm a leadership specialist, I kind of have to explain innovation is not just technology solutions. Innovation is, what's happening in your mind, how you think, your mindset. And in an organization, no matter how small it is, you have to have collaboration. So innovation equals collaboration. So we spoke about the fact that you have to be able to, hire people who think differently, and you have to have solid teamwork because they come up with ideas. And then when we spoke about the technology, an HR solution or a software that you use for HR, you start to internalize how you actually adapt to the technology. So if you can implement it really well, and you as an owner can be tech savvy about it, use the mobile aspects of it, you can actually start to change the culture in your organization. And the culture of an organization is driven by the leadership. So as an SME, if you're not tech savvy, you can't expect your team to be. Yes. If you're not adaptable, your team will be adaptable. So it's all about us and how we actually shift ourselves. And that was the crux of it. I shared some software opportunities that people can go online and look on. I'm a proponent of cloud technology. Yes. There's no way I'm going to do anything else. I'm an SME. I say take the advice of the security risks, manage it, choose well. And we had Sheldon who came after, who spoke about the kind of pitfalls. Yes. But you have to use cloud. There's just no other way around it. And they're available, they're accessible. I spoke about HR Plus, which is a HR solution made in the Caribbean. And that one is actually, very affordable and shared some costs. So I encourage everybody to kind of use it for themselves.
Interesting. Tell us a little bit more about Great People Solutions.
Okay, so I started it in 2013 when I came out of the corporate world. And the reality is that a lot of businesses want to use high-level HR, sophisticated leadership development. They can't necessarily afford a high-flying HR person. So when I left and I decided I'm either going to get a job or do my own business, and everybody was saying, Lisa, do your own business, I had thought of the brand, the Great People Solutions. So as an SME, that's another thing, or an entrepreneur, you have to figure out what your brand is. And that was a brand that I kind of slept on and said, okay, I can do that. That sounds like me. And essentially, I offer all services in HR.
But if you were to actually physically go and try to speak to 50,000 people, it would take you quite a bit of time. And not only to speak to them, but to effectively communicate your message. It would take you quite a bit of time, right? However, through digital, through social media, I would say, a day, all right? That's for persons to make contact, to kind of see what you're about, if it is that they're visiting your website through a respective social media platform, and to kind of understand what you're offering. I would say about a day, right? This was not always the case. So how long would it take you to respond to, say, 10 customer queries? How about that one? How long would it take you to respond to 10 queries that your customers have, 10, things that they want to know from you, whatever? How long? 30 minutes? 1 day? All right, well, I beat all of you this time because I don't respond to the queries. All right? No, this does not mean that I have no customers. What it means is I use tools so that we have messenger bots for that. I don't need to respond. A messenger bot that's pre-programmed with an algorithm will respond. All right? Better yet, on my website, if you go to my website right now, digitalglobal.com, sort of plug. If you go to the website right now and you were to message that thing that's going to pop up, a messenger bot, you're going to be responded to by an automated tool that will then field the query, and based on what you want from my company, it's going to deliver it to my business dev team, who will then make contact. Without us having to find out what you want, a tool is doing that for us, and that tool is called Drift. Now, leverage. This is essentially what I want to speak about, leverage. How do you leverage people, leverage tools, leverage time to ensure that you're actually achieving your business goals within a shorter span of time than you would have naturally done before? Who remembers this? Anybody? Anybody still have one of these TVs? Everybody gone, smart TV. Smart TV? Okay. So you remember this? Yeah? Some people just give away them age a while ago, but it's all right. What about this? Or does this look more familiar? Yeah? Well, the point is we live in a multi-screen environment. The most important screen to you nowadays is your smartphone. It's not really your television. I mean, we watch TV, but what do we have in our hands while we're watching TV? Your phone. So the mobile experience is truly the one that you have to curate effectively as business owners to truly enrapture your customers and, of course, convert, which is what we all want to do. So keep this image in mind as we go through. So let's dispel some myths. So a lot of people in this room, maybe, I hope not, maybe that's why it's so quiet, think that social media is just for fun and games, or, you know, it's not a tool. It's not really useful for business. You can't really get it, just likes and shares and comments, and that doesn't really convert into true business KPIs. It doesn't convert, right? And that's a big myth on the basis that these things are true also. More persons own a smartphone than a toothbrush. Everybody in here own a toothbrush though, right? Because I'm not coming to sit next to you if not. So, more persons own a smartphone than a toothbrush. This is 4 billion persons own a smartphone. 3.5 billion own a toothbrush. YouTube reaches more 18 to 34 and 18 to 49-year-olds than any cable network in the United States. How many of you have a niece or a young child that all she does is watch Dora all day? Not on television, but on the tablet, which, by the way, they know how to operate better than you and I. So what does this number represent? What do you think this number represents? 1 second. Quickly, they give me 10 minutes. Come now, give me the energy. 1 second, what does it represent? Oh, well, let me give you more context. What can be achieved in a second then? Or what's within a second? Search results, all right. Damn, that was quick. Yeah, 1 minute. I guess 1 second, okay. So 12 new users per second on each social media network. Cumulatively, it's 1 million new active users are added every day, right? 34%, this is the global penetration rate of digital marketing, or social media networks in particular. 52%, in 2015, Facebook influenced 52% of customers' online and offline purchases. So you see, social media operates on the premise of psychology. There's something called social proof. How many of you have seen your friend by looking at something, and because it says your friend liked this or your friend did this, you go as well? Yeah. You're not just because you're fast, but it's because your friend. And that concept of social proof is embedded in human psychology. The thing is, we groupthink, the concept of groupthink. We go around one particular idea, or we all, go around one particular. So your friend purchased some new shoes. You see it on social media. Might have put up the link. The advent of influencer marketing now on Instagram, where persons are tagging and literally advertising and making a lot of money because they have audiences that look to them for fashion insights or business insights or motivational tips, whatever it is. 100%. Social media has a 100% higher closed lead rate than traditional marketing. And this is simple. When you're watching a television, you cannot click the TV. You have to grab a piece of paper, write down something or something, right? You have to find some other ways to retain information. Digital, you just click, and you're there. If you want to purchase the product, you can. When you go to somebody's website, they can use a retargeting pixel to retarget you. Marketing says it takes 7 times before you see something before you buy. How many have something in their Amazon cart and you keep seeing it on Facebook? You're wondering why. Those are tools that they're using. Versus them telling you buy something 7 times. They have a tool rerouting it to you. So quickly, 46% of web users look towards social media when making a purchase. And I'm just going to try to run through these slides really quick. These are some demographic data for Jamaica in terms of social media penetration, which you can check out later. We're approximately about 60% at this point in this late period of the year in terms of persons on digital. We have more smartphones than people in Jamaica. All right? Flipping through. So businesses are using social media to do customer research to gain insights at scale. So if you want to know something, recently I ran a poll for youth volunteerism for the United Way, and we cataloged 800 responses. Data was instantly analyzed, presented to the Prime Minister. It took us a week. All right? And the point is, with these tools, MailChimp, Slack, Trello, you can really change how you do business. Increase brand awareness and loyalty. So the viral effect is the ultimate form of leverage. Imagine you create something for free many times, and it's seen by the world. Social media facilitates that. Never before in the advent of time has that been possible. For some piece of content that you create to reach the world at scale in such a small period of time, effectively building your brand. And that is why small businesses can now compete with the behemoths in the space, right? Because of this technology. You can run targeted ads. I can run an ad within 5 miles of this because I know this event is going on to tell people to come. Within 5 miles of this location using geotag, right? increase web traffic, generate higher converting leads because you're more targeted. Your efforts are more targeted. Versus targeting the world, you build a buyer persona. You say, this person is who I want to target. This is the person most likely to purchase my goods or services. So why target the world when you can be very niched? Social media is like a newspaper that you get to curate what's on the front page.
Cloud computing for SMEs, when you're using a server or a service for your core business from the internet. What you're used to right now is using a server that you might have set up on premise. You would have had maybe like a QuickBooks or a P3 running on that server. You'd have some a contract with somebody to come in and maintain that server for you, virus protection and so forth. Now, the things that you run into there is that you tend to run outdated software because you run the risk sometimes of, your application is actually working, so why bother patch it and so forth. The problem comes in, though, if you have that server connected to the internet. And I'm sure every business person right now have connections going out to the internet. And the mere fact that you're going outside the internet, it means somebody's actually looking in and seeing what you're doing. You're downloading files. They're trying to send files, malicious files at the same time, and will actually end up stealing your information, maybe causing you not to get access to your data. That's the whole aspect of ransomware. Ransomware, they lock the files on your computer, and then they send you a message saying, if you want access to the file, send me 500 US, or there's on a month fees because you do send the 500 US and they'll send it to you. But if a Google company that's here, a large company, they'll probably the ransom will be a lot more than that. The other big thing about going to cloud computing is the whole aspect of mobility, collaboration, and the agility. For example, if your business grows, as Lisa said, and you hire 10 more employees, if you had that HR system on premise, you might actually have to buy more server capacity. If you're on the cloud, you actually just, with your credit card, you just add additional capacity just like that. So it helps to move faster. A lot of these vendors as well, they actually allow you to scale down. Sometimes you're ramping up for a particular season, you may be busy in the Christmas, so you have to get more license, but maybe after Christmas you don't need as much, so you can have to scale back down. No, cybersecurity, that's another buzzword. But what is cybersecurity? Cybersecurity is the technology, the tools, and the processes that you apply to protect you from malicious software, right? Now, it's a very profitable business, as you can see, extremely profitable. It's $1 billion business. And because of artificial intelligence, people actually write programs and look for low-hanging fruits. Now, again, don't make a mistake. I mean, yeah, you say, the banks really have to worry about cybersecurity. Yes, we do, because we can afford to. I have a security department, right? And I have people who are hired 24/7 to monitor our networks and all of that. Now, as an SME, you can't afford to do that. So what are you going to do? Simply, that's actually another reason to go to the cloud. Because if you go to the cloud, it actually is and can be more secure. It can be, but you have to also do your homework there. So, a cloud service provider, CSP, right? Before you jump onto any cloud service provider, you need to check them out thoroughly, right? They should that's how you have independent people doing independent audits of your financials. There are reports of third parties that would come in and check that your cloud provider exactly have sound financials, because you don't want to go to business, your data is up there on the cloud, and you can't access it. So you should ask to show you independent reports of their financials. There are other type of reports called SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports, which actually gives you, the SOC 1 is for those who understand IT, would have to tell you about their practices. What is their backup policy? What is their security policy? What's their change management policy? How do they do capacity planning? A very detailed report and assessment of how well that provider is doing. There's a SOC 3, I think it's a SOC 3 report, where it's more like it's a grading system. So for those who understand IT, we'll have to tell you how they rate this particular vendor. So it's a more summary type of report. Now, if you're just doing business with somebody on the cloud and they don't have this practice, that means that your data could actually maybe not be protected. And that's serious business in terms of data, because if your customer data gets sold, you're liable to to get sued, and don't feel because you're in Jamaica we're being protected for that, because there's a data policy that's going to be passed soon. Another thing in terms of data controller, there must be somebody in the organization is looking at your data access policy, right? Now, I know it's very easy when somebody comes to the organization, because you have to get them to work, you're going to add them to the system. But what happens when they leave? No, you're actually better off when your server is on premise, because when they leave, you generally don't have access to the server. But when you're on the cloud, that employee that you just fired or had left you still has access to your data 24/7. So it's actually more important when you move to the cloud to have a strategy where as soon as the employee leaves, you actually remove them from the system, right? And also in terms of access rights, and small business tend not to do this, but you have to be very careful who can actually add users, delete users, who can actually modify transactions, post transactions, read transactions. Pay attention to these things. Even if you have 5 employees, you think it's family members and all of that, pay attention to these things.
We're with Mr. Beresford Gray, CEO of...
This is a very interesting summit that will allow us to engage with medium-sized firms and sort of share our ideas around innovative financing and what are some of the process through which that can be accessed, and what are some of the flexibility that creative financing will bring to medium-sized firms.
When you say creative financing, I understand that you have innovative ways and you have an innovative approach to acquiring venture capital and otherwise.
Okay, yeah, so Cygnus is a Caribbean-based firm that is focused on what we call non-traditional financing solutions. Non-traditional financing solutions is basically non-bank financing whereby you seek to use instruments such as preference share, subordinated loans, loans with equity sharing, or what you call equity kickers. And what that allow the entrepreneur or the business to do is to transfer part of the risk of the business to the lender or the investor, and at the same time it forges a deeper relationship because now you have a vested interest beyond debt. So that allows both parties to develop what we call a long and dedicated partnership that allow firms to grow, focusing on what they do in terms of delivering growth in their products, and the financier looking at the business and trying to figure out how best can I structure or design a financing package to help the company grow even further.
Mr. Gray, tell us a little bit about your presentation and what we can expect from your presentation today.
My presentation today is focusing on what we call private credit. Again, when you look at the global market, private credit is a significant channel through which institutions and companies can access capital. And private credit involves companies like what we call mezzanine financing. It also includes private equity funds. It also include what we call private credit funds. These are basically funds that lend in a very flexible and customized way to businesses. And in the global market, you have about 600 billion of asset in this private credit space. And about 60% of that is raised from pension funds, and most of that money, about 40%, is unlent to small businesses or medium-sized firms. What we are trying to do at Cygnus, along with a few other firms in the region, is to develop what we call a private credit channel through which you have non-banks lending or investing, taking more risk in medium-sized firms to help drive the velocity of economic growth. And that's what I'll be talking about, how these capital can be accessed, why is it user-friendly for the borrowers, in terms of, for example, amortization, interest rate, and interaction in terms of coaching for business leaders. And those are some of the things that you get when a private credit investor invests in your company.
Fantastic. And has the summit been meeting your expectations? I'm going to ask that question again.
Yeah.
Mr. Gray, very interesting. And has the summit been meeting your expectations overall?
Now, so far, it has surpassed my expectation because the discussion is not focused on any particular area. You're talking about persons talking about technology and innovations around there, person's talking about customer service and how do you streamline your business to be more efficient, and people talking about leadership as well, and how do you bring culture into an organization to drive innovation. So it's very rounded and should be well received by business owners, investors, and industry practitioners.
The bank started out looking at really just providing loans to businesses. What we've gone into, as I mentioned, is realizing that financing isn't the only need, but to strengthen their own capacity is probably an even greater need. So that's what we focus on. Another thing that the bank does, not necessarily through my division, but the broader bank, is allow businesses who have limited collateral to get access to guarantees from the bank so that they can again get financing from the financial institutions.
How important would you say is a summit of this nature?
Well, it's extremely important. The summit teaches businesses what they need to understand so that they can get financing from a bank. Not even only from a bank, there are other investors that are out there, angel investors, equity investors. I think the main thing that the SME should take away from the summit is how they are able to get business support so that they can get investments. And investments shouldn't be limited to loans from a bank, but equity is a viable option to get capital in the business as well.
We take our final break, but don't touch that remote because we have much more highlights for you right after this.
I think there's a significant discussion that needs to be had about the role of government and the private sector as it relates to SME. I had stopped going to a lot of association meetings in my former life because I found that when we went to the meetings, it was all a big blame game. Who is responsible, who should be doing what, and then we go through the discussion about why they're not doing it, and we have a great big talk shop. So we have to engage a discussion about engagement, passion, and also taking responsibility and getting the job done. My philosophy, and this isn't my own idea and it wouldn't be original in any way, what came through a program I did called ACE, which is the American competitive program that I went to in Canada. They have it, I think, twice a year. And it was an eye-opener for me because it was in Canada and we saw various industries and we also were able to observe how the government and the private sector work together. And it really spun a lot of thinking in my mind when I saw how the private sector took more responsibility for a lot of the things I find here in Jamaica that we want to give government the responsibility for. We know government don't have enough money half the time to do the things we need to do. We know they're not going to get up and get it done. And they also are slow, bureaucratic. So my thoughts are that in order to grow our SMEs, the private sector needs to engage in a more organized way. The other thing we recognize is that our main purpose at the Jamaica Exporters Association is we need to wake up every single morning and find sale for our members' products, because a lot of them are SMEs. They don't hire export managers. They're not like the bigger companies. So our role needs to be about export. But what do we find when we do this? We find that the companies don't have the capacity. And you have the order, but you don't have anyone to supply. So we have to engage through the JA some capacity building programs which we feel that the members need. And we're working with our partners, JMA, JBDC, and JAMPRA as well, to engage these capacity programs, because we can't allow it not to be at the standard that it needs to be. So it's about the private sectors engaging an organized way of deciding what do we want to take over from government, and then what do we want to insist that they do for us, as opposed to just go and ask for what they want. So this is my discussion this morning on some sort of a reform, some sort of a way in which we need to dialogue.
As an entrepreneur, our business started some 27 years ago with about 10,000 Jamaican dollars. So what I'm trying to say is that I was in your shoes many, many decades ago, 27 years ago. We built a business from the scratch with 9 Jamaicans working in the factory. And my biggest problem that I had in trying to move forward was accessing money with zero collateral, nothing to give the banks to be able to do it. And I fought and fought. I got credit from suppliers. I went to LP Azars and bought fabrics. I went to Marks downtown and bought fabrics. And that's how we slowly built the business to where it is today. Today we have 220 Jamaicans working in 3 different factories. We're exporting to 14 or 15 different countries today. Last month we had our biggest export month. I'm not doing this to try and market my company, boss. I'm actually doing it to say to you, listen, you're here now, but you can get there. Very easily too. Once you set your goals and you're going to work at it to do what you need. If you have a good product, a good service, and I'm saying this to motivate you to be able to get there, because not only do you need it, your children need it, your grandchildren need it, Jamaica needs it, your country needs it, and the world needs it. And you have to do your part in your special little area to be able to get to where you want to be and to be able to make a difference in this world. Don't let anybody discourage you. If you have a heart and feel that it's something can be done, you need to go out there and do it. The biggest stumbling block, and this is not to I'm not personally hitting at bankers, but you got to open, the bankers need to change. They've come a long way and things are changing slowly because they've got to get out there and work now. The days are gone by where they used to trade a lot of paper. Now they have to get into the businesses. And I remember years ago as a little youngster, every Saturday I had to go and work with my grandfather down on Beckford Street. And every Saturday his bank manager came by and visited him. While he's sitting in there having coffee with him, he's seeing how many customers walking into the place. He's seeing what products he has on his shelves. He's seeing the movement of the customers in the location, how the staff are acting, how he's treating the staff. And the days of our bank manager, and I've operated my business for 27 years now, and it's only of recent times that I see my bankers from different banks coming in now to get the business, because now they have to go out and work. And this is a great cultural shift, and I think it's going to make a huge difference in growing our economy. So with that said, it's just a brief opening. It's a challenge, growing a business. It's always a challenge, and I still, even after 27 years, find it very challenging operating, the bureaucracy, but there are ways around it. And I agree with Michelle. You can't depend on government to do. What you need to do is get up and speak if you need government to get out your way and do it.
And that's it for coverage of the DBJ SME Summit. Until next time, I'm Shelley Hill. Thanks for tuning in to Business Access TV, serious about business.